Good morning, everybody, from the Grizz compound for a change. I'm just going to talk a little bit of what we're going to see in this next little series here. Might be a few part series. September's the time when I do pouring for next year already. I get my statuary stock tried to build up, so I only have to worry about pouring the new stuff come the spring. Doesn't always work out 100%. I try and get done what I can, but there's usually a million things on the go this time of year for me. So what we haven't covered before, we've touched base on it a couple times, is prepping and repairing old models or things that you've picked up that you want to do molds of in the winter time. We never really covered the whole topic of how to repair and how to patch, how to strip paint or old paint, and how to prep it before we go to rubber. So that's what the series is going to be about. I've got 3 subjects sort of on the go, and we'll start with those and maybe do a little follow-up as we go along with them. Okay, gang? And we'll see you soon. Okay, and away we go. So you can see I've been pouring a lot of plaster masters here, and what that's for is I'm going to try doing some dipping this year. I want some multiples for myself. These ones are really popular models that sell like crazy, and after a while you get tired of, pouring the single mold, the single mold, the single mold. So I thought, heck, I'll make some doubles for myself, and then I thought, you know what, why not make triple and then see if I can sell a few of these off. I've never done it before yet, but let's see, I might give it a shot selling a few of these little guys here. I might even do some more as the winter goes on. I might do some skins as well, Gunnera skins. We'll see how it goes, playing it by ear. Here's a model for rework here. This is from some folks that dropped by that are actually getting me to do the mold for them. They just think it's a little bit over their level, and I've got another big piece too. And sort of the deal is I'm just going to charge them for materials, and then I'll pour myself a plaster master and then have one to cast myself to make a mold from. But not bad. Needs a little bit of work. They did use some clay. They found out the hard way that you can't use regular clay, that it has to be a sulfur-free. They did have some problem on some repairs they did before, so it's actually not in too bad shape. Needs a good scrub and a little bit of work, probably a little plaster work on that guy. And we'll come over here. Got some plaster rings on the go for, I'm not 100% sure. I got an idea what I might want to do with it, but I'm not sold on it yet. Just starting off, I'm doing a yin and yang type planter coming up out of plaster. You can see it's a foam board underneath. Here's a big old urn. I think I bought this thing like probably 6 years ago. Forgot all about it. Was sitting in a back room. It's quite nice actually. Nice pot. But of course it's got the wrong draft inside. Webb's talked about this a lot before too. So today I just poured a plaster base for it. Inside just to shorten it up a little bit too, and it was pretty concave down there. So coming up, the sides aren't too bad. I got to build it out a little bit at the sides. Whoops, I should zoom out a little bit on the sides here, and of course under this lip. I've got to get under here and block that off. Otherwise it's not too bad of a draft, and we've talked about that before too. You have to have like a negative draft, right, going into the pot. Or, if it's working the other way, you'll get your glass in there and you'll never get it out. So, yeah, you either have to have it straight up and down or on a little bit of a negative draft there. And I'll take some more pictures as we go along with this guy here. So here, this big lady here is also from those same folks that brought me the Ganesh statue over there. And so it's the same deal with this one. A little bit of damage on this one too. Had a big hole. This is fiberglass, by the way. There was a big hole in here and a big crack and another hole down in here with a crack. You can see what this is body filler Bondo. My buddy next door had some boat fella, and so I filled that up. I'm going to sand that down. We were going to use something called Dynaglass. It's like a putty that you use resin catalyst in as well, but it's really hard to sand out. The Bondo is easier to sand. The Dynaglass is really hard to sand. So went with the Bondo. A few cricks and cracks, as you can see over here, but I didn't want to get into using that there. I'm just going to do like a little, like a squish of clay, some plastilina into those cracks there and fix those up. You can see you got a few more here. There's some paint spots. Well, we talked before about doing reworks. Like, this is the time to fix that stuff, is now. Like, really, don't just grab it and start throwing rubber on it. Look for all the defects and the things you want to change. This one had a lot of, I've already used acetone on it already. You can see up here there's lots of paint spots, but they're raised paint spots. Like, if you run your finger over them, you can feel that they stick out. So you want to fix that, because your finished product, your rubber will show all those little defects. And me anyway, I don't want to have that. So I've already worked. Let's see if we can see it here. Can't really see it, but there was a couple paint run. Oh, there it is. There's a couple paint runs right here. You could see the outline of them. This is flat now, and what I used is wet dry sandpaper right here. You could buy it in any hardware store. Spray water on your model, water on your paper, and you're just gonna work that off and get those little lumps and bumps. And I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna work next. Is up here on her breast, I think you can see up here, there's a big raised spot too. It's some sloppy paint work up there. And I'm really not happy. This is the time too, we've talked about this before, this is the time to realign if you don't like where a seam was. Like JB on the forum, I always liked what he said, you don't have to repeat somebody else's mistake. So I'm not going to in this case. You can see the seam line starts at this corner and comes up, starts following the dress up. But then this part I don't like is they hop between, and then up, and then over again, and over again, and up the back of the body. Oops, sorry. And up the neck, and if you can see, follows the hairline up the side there. And it's quite visible if you're looking at it this way, you can see there's lots of sloppy marks. So I'm going to be using my Dremel, smoothing out a lot of those spots, and a lot of wet dry sanding, and I'm going to try and get this down as nice as I can to get rid of the old seam line lumps and bumps. So my seam line is going to be on this side. So this is the back side of the model. It's going to start probably up on the back side of that bun, and I'll follow it down. I'll come down the shoulder. Then I'm going to follow this pleat, the pleat that's here, and then I'm going to follow the pleat again down to this pleat, and then and across. Still following the pleat down, and then across. So it'll be one seam line going up, not hopping across the pleats, because to me that's really noticeable. So I don't know if it's just me being a little bit anal, and it's not a straight line. Nobody says you had to do a straight line for a seam. It can be over. So this is what you call a blanket mold. So it'll be one seam, and you can pull it from both sides and up and off. So anyway, like I said, this is the time to fix all those little defects and those little problems. And so I'll keep giving you follow-ups on this one here. And what have I got going here? We got some plaster shapes here, some cone shapes. I kind of like. I textured them up. I've got lots of little spheres. I was just thinking it'd be a kind of a cute little setup in a garden or something a little more modern with some geometric shapes in it. We'll see what transpires next year. So I'm just going to head outside in a second, and we'll talk about what's out there. Okie doke. So we've moved outside. I had to move some stuff inside because, of course, my other neighbor decided to show up and work on something. So It was a little noisy. Anyway, what I have here is a resin model from my house. I probably had this thing for over 15 years. And she was a pixie, but she had little tiny delicate wings on the back that just wouldn't work. But she's quite cute. I like the flower. I like the rest of the whole thing about her. She's a really good looking model. And I just took it out of my garden and I said, you know what? I'm going to do you up this year. So what she had was some really bad chipped paint, old chip paint on her. This has already had a couple treatments. Now, what have I used? This is a resin model, right? So I looked up online and found out that Easy Off oven cleaner works great on resin, doesn't harm that. You could use acetone, but the problem is you have to be quick because it will soften the resin. So I just wanted to avoid that, having problems and creating more blemishes than necessary. So anyway, these are guys who do like science fiction, these cool science fiction resin models for like trade shows and things, and they were all saying that they all used Easy Off oven spray if they did a paint job that they didn't like. So this is the second application. This thing had easy, 10 times more paint on it, but it works really good. Like, I'll just rub you can see this is coming right off. Spray it, put it in a plastic bag, seal it up for about an hour or so, and either with a little plastic brush or one of these sorry about that, little green scrubbies here, soaked in water, and it comes off so easy. It's so nice, and it doesn't affect. So then you're going to have a nice smooth finish. But what it does reveal, let's see if we can find some spots here, is there's lots of little places where when the resin was cast, you get lots of, see this overburden, and there's little balls that form up in the hair. And there's others down in here. Now's a good time too. You could take your Dremel with one of those diamond bits and just get rid of all those little defects in the model, and then you'll have a nice clean model to work with. So I'd probably spray her with shellac first, after it's cleaned up really nice, and away you go. But just so you know, this works great on taking off paint on a resin model. So if you find one somewhere and it's got big chunks of paint and it's kind of coming off and you wonder how to work that new, I totally would recommend the Easy Off. So I'm just going to head back inside again for one more different piece. So here we are with the magic of editing. It's the next day. All the paint stripped, about 99% of it's all stripped off this resin model now, and you can see here, you can see better. See in right by her arm, down by those tulip bulbs there, you can see what I was saying about little pieces of the resin. Let's point it out there, all in here. Oops, I'm going a little wonky. In here, and in here. Here you can see, you'll look around, you'll start finding all little defects that you can go in and clean up before you're ready to go to rubber. Things you'll discover too is you'll find other more little defects, but you're going to find your seam line. Like all resin models have seams as well, so you can see this one, it starts down here, travels over and up the back. She was a two-part seam because the other seam's on the other side, running up her arm, running up the back of her arm. I might follow a similar sort of a line and coming up to the head. I don't know if I'll do a two-piece for sure or not. We'll see. But yeah, she's a nice little model. But like I said, you can see there's lots of little things to clean up between her toes. She should wash her feet better. And a few other things I'm concerned about. These look great. They're like tulip blooms on her dress here. But I'm a little worried about these pretty deep undercuts under here that I don't think they'll survive a demold. So I'm going to have to accentuate those and bring some clay out and make them more one piece, if you know what I mean. That I'm not going to get hung up under here. There's no way I can get glass up under there. It's just going to be a problem. So anyway, that'll be a project that I work on, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there through the days as we go. So I just wanted to show you one other piece here. So this piece has it's a Venus. It has a few issues. One is the color. The other is, you can can see there that the base isn't level at all. You can actually see if you look at it, if I hold this up goofy, you can see she's not even straight. So I got to do a little repair work. You can see under there's quite the gap to get her level. So I'll have to repair the base. There's a big chip out of the bottom. And as I started looking at it too, it's quite clear that she's been broken in half. You can see the fracture line running straight through. I'm pretty sure that's what that was. I don't think that's a mold defect. Pretty well looks like a fracture to me. Anyway, I'll have to grind this flat in the back. And the other thing is too, there's like a ton of bug holes in here. I think some people think that paint will solve it all, like paint right over the bug holes and people won't notice it. I think that's sort of cheating. I mean, I know we're just doing concrete statues, but you know, like try and have like pride in your work, put out the best product that you can, something that you're proud to put out with and to have people to purchase. You know, you're giving them a quality product. So she's also you can probably see that in the lighting. I threw a lot of light on here, so you see lots of like lumps and bumps and bubbles, and I don't know if that was a dirty brush or the model was dirty. I'm not too sure. So anyway, I'm gonna clean her all up, and that's gonna start with stripping. So what I found was that there's a lot now of paint stripper, but it's soy-based or plant-based. Don't mind the French, but this is the brand. Most home hardwares carry this circa 1850. They carry the really toxic brand, you know, that you have to mask up, and it's really stinky. And this stuff smells really nice. You can use it indoors. Still wear gloves, but it does give you the advantage. You don't have to go outside. So I gave it a little test. You know, if you're going to test any of these models, like the resin or this guy, this big fiberglass one, if you're a little scared to say, if you're like, even with acetone or something, if you're not sure, like pick a bottom back corner somewhere, try it out somewhere, just make sure it's not going to start eating your mold. Like I've heard horror stories of people on resin too, that they've used lacquer thinner and it'll just it'll start melting the resin. So if you're using anything that you're not too sure of, just find a back corner somewhere, hidden away, and put some of your acetone or whatever you want to use as a stripper. Put it on there and just make sure that it's not going to damage your entire model, because you don't want to go through that mess. So I just want to show you how good this worked. It was 15. You put it on for 15 minutes. If it dries out a bit, you reapply. But gee whiz, it worked really good. I just gave it a scrub with a plastic brush, and that came right off, like easy peasy. But you know, it'll expose all the issues and the problems. But it's good to have a clean slate. I'll probably give it a wash with alcohol after I'm finished with this, probably, and put it in the sink. Give it a good scrub too. But you can see all the tons of bug holes and stuff in there. But it'll be a fun little project to, you know, maybe pop in every now and then and take a look. I'll probably wind up putting a plaster coat over the whole thing there and trying to smooth her out a little bit. But that's it. So onward and upward, and I'll keep popping in and out for these different models here and give you some progress shots. Okay, gang, take care.